Hi everybody and welcome to my Unruly Housewife channel. Today I am showing you this. It is a Sculpey Bake Shop clay, and it's a kind of clay that Sculpey are aiming at children. Now I normally use Sculpey Primo, so it was very interesting to me to get my hands on this Bake Shop clay, and it was actually supplied to us by Sculpey at my guild, my local guild, which is the British Polymer Clay Guild Northwest branch. If you live in the kind of Manchester area and you live in the UK, you might want to join us. Anyway, back to the clay. Alright, so this Bake Shop clay differs from normal Sculpey Primo, say, in that it's cheaper to buy and it's softer to condition, so it's much easier for kids to condition this clay, and it's perhaps a nice little clay for kids to play with alongside you when you're doing your own claying, for instance. So I'm going to go into the pros and cons of it now and show you some examples of what I've done. So now I'm going to show you what the Sculpey is like to work with. You might have noticed it comes in some really pretty colours, and this is fresh out of the packet, but as you can see it's extremely soft and really easy to condition. Now that means your kids can get on and do some claying on their own without you having to do the donkey work. But the softness of it does have some downsides. It can be quite sticky and get dirty and fluffy really easily. It can also come off on your hands quite badly, and look at that. That's a bit grim really, isn't it? And you don't get that sort of transference with Sculpey Primo. That said, it does take texture well, and here's a texture sheet that I've spritzed with water, and I'm just going to push this onto there now. Still not used to working from behind the camera, so do forgive me if this looks a bit weird. Give it a good push. Peel it off, and as you can see it does pick up the texture pretty nicely, and that's a bit of a funny sheet, that very deep there, but it looks good. Let's move on and see how strong this clay is, shall we? Sculpey Bake Shop clay bakes at a slightly hotter temperature than the Primo. It bakes at 135 degrees Celsius or centigrade, depending on how old you are. And you cook it for 15 minutes per 1/4 inch thick, and it says don't overbake. I've been claying for a while, and us more experienced clayers, we do tend to bake things for a longer rather than shorter amount of time, it has to be said. And I made some samples. Now this is pure Bake Shop, and this is Bake Shop mixed with a 1/4 Sculpey Primo, and I baked these for a good half an hour. So that was my decision. You may want to do what it says on the packet. But now let's just have a look at how strong or otherwise it is. And I mean, you know, this isn't, you're not making it to break it after all, are you? But that snapped pretty easily. Sorry, I think I knocked my camera there. Let's see what happens with the mixture with transparent Primo and Bake Shop. Well, that seems to be a lot stronger, doesn't it? That's not snapping at all. So if you're going to use the Bake Shop clay, it might be worth mixing in a little bit of transparent Primo with it, because although that did snap, it was a lot harder to break. So yeah, I hope we can all learn something from that. But even so, having said that, you know, it's not meant to, you're not meant to go around desperately trying to break it, are you? So I think it's a reasonable kind of clay. But it's definitely better if you can mix in some Sculpey Primo with it. That's definitely a good idea, and maybe even a little bit more than a 1/4. It blends very well. I think we'll have a little look at that as well. That's a blend of the colours. I actually made like a little Skinner blend of the colours, and I cut out this little heart. Now you might notice there's 1 or 2 little slight bubbles on the surface. Now this is pure Bake Shop, and I must say, although I'd worked this quite a lot and I've got a couple of bubbles, On the whole, I find because the Bake Shop is not as elasticy and stretchy as the Sculpey Primo, it almost has less bubbles getting involved in it. So I suppose that's one pro. But yeah, it blends nicely and makes a nice skinner blend. And I even managed to make like a little cane that I rolled using it. If you're a clay, you'll know what that is. And I took slices of the cane, but really it is extremely soft, so it's not easy to use the cane that you've made. But you know, I just challenged myself really. I'll show you what I made with it. I think it's time for me to fess up. I made this little frog. I found it pretty hard to make him without too many like fingerprints and things on him. Oh, I don't know. It is a very, very soft clay. I fixed his head on using a bit of a toothpick, and he's jolly enough, you know. It's a good clay for kids to play with, I think. I think he's pretty strong. I kind of tried to break him a bit and he didn't seem to want to break. So on the whole, I'd say it's quite a nice little clay. Aoife Smith Murphy, my friend in the Irish Polymer Clay Guild, and you might want to look into that if you live in Ireland. You can find the Irish Polymer Clay Guild on Facebook and find out all about it. So Aoife Smith Murphy, who helps to organise it, she got her 3 children to have a go with this clay and they absolutely loved it. And her little girl, I think it was, made a penguin which was subsequently dropped on the floor and the penguin didn't break. So maybe it's not as strong as Primo, but it seems to be strong enough. My only reservation about using this with kids is that older kids, you might want to choose a more expensive, you know, Primo, the more expensive clay for an older child, because if they're trying to achieve something, it is harder to achieve a good sculpt or whatever. With this, it's harder to achieve than it is with Primo, just simply because it is so very soft. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to give this let's say 8 out of 10. I think I'm right in remembering that Aoife's children gave it 10 out of 10, and it is aimed at kids, so maybe we should give the kids the final say. Sculpey Bake Shop clay, there it is. I'll give you another quick look at it. If you want a less expensive clay for your children to clay along with you, I think this is ideal. And if you mix in a little bit of Primo, it's going to be even better. I hope you enjoyed that. I will see you again soon. And yeah, take care of yourselves. I love you all. Bye-bye.